Officer rescues abandoned black baby, faces heartbreaking revelation years later. The rain fell heavily on the dark streets of a rundown neighborhood. Officer John Harris, a white man in his 40s, drove slowly in his patrol car. His eyes scanned the empty sidewalks and shadowy alleys. John had been a cop for many years. He cared about people and wanted to make things right. But sometimes his job felt hard and thankless. As John turned a corner, he heard something faint over the rain. He stopped the car and listened. There it was again, a weak cry. John got out and walked towards the sound. It seemed to come from behind a dumpster in an alley. John's heart beat faster as he approached. The cry grew clearer. It sounded like a baby. He shone his flashlight behind the dumpster. John gasped. There, wrapped in a thin blanket, was a tiny black baby. The poor thing shivered in the cold and wet. "Oh my God," John whispered. He quickly picked up the baby, holding it close to warm it. With his free hand, he called for an ambulance on his radio. John felt shocked and sad. Who would leave a helpless baby like this? As John waited for help, he looked at the baby's face. Memories of his own children as babies came back to him. John had found being a dad very hard. He and his wife had split up years ago. John didn't see his kids as much as he wanted to. But now, holding this abandoned child, John felt something stir inside him. A need to protect. A desire to make things right. For the first time in years, John felt truly needed. He had a chance to make a real difference. John gently rocked the baby, talking softly to comfort it. "It's okay, little one. You're safe now. I've got you." The baby's cries softened. John felt the small body relax in his arms. In that moment, John's doubts about his job melted away. This was why he became a cop. To help people who couldn't help themselves. To stand up for those with no voice. John silently promised the baby he would do everything he could to give it a good life. The sound of sirens grew louder. Help was almost here. John knew his role in the baby's life would soon end. But he would never forget this night. It had woken something in him that had been sleeping for too long. John was ready to be the officer and the man he had always wanted to be. As the ambulance pulled up, John felt a mix of relief and reluctance. He knew the baby needed medical care, but he didn't want to let go. The paramedics rushed over with a stretcher. "Found this little one behind a dumpster," John told them, his voice shaky. No sign of parents. The paramedics nodded grimly. One of them, a woman with kind eyes, reached for the baby. "We'll take good care of the child, officer." John hesitated, then carefully handed over the baby. He watched as they wrapped the infant in warm blankets and checked its vital signs. The paramedic smiled at John. "Thanks to you, this baby has a chance." "You did good, officer." Her words hit John hard. He blinked back tears as he watched them load the baby into the ambulance. As the vehicle drove away, its lights flashing in the rain, John stood there feeling dazed. He got back in his patrol car but didn't start it right away. John sat there, replaying the events in his mind. The baby's cry, the feeling of holding that tiny, vulnerable life, the rush of protectiveness he had felt. John thought about his own kids. He hadn't been there for them like he should have. Work always came first. But now he saw things differently. That baby had woken something in him, a desire to do better, to be better. He started the car and began driving to the hospital. John knew he should get back to his patrol, but he couldn't. He needed to know the baby would be okay. At the hospital, John found the emergency room busy with late-night cases. He showed his badge to a nurse. "I'm here about the abandoned baby that just came in. How is it doing?" The nurse checked her computer. "The baby is stable. We're running tests now. Are you the officer who found it?" John nodded. "Can I see the baby?" The nurse hesitated, then saw the concern in John's eyes. "Okay, but just for a minute." She led John to a small room. The baby lay in a special warming bed, hooked up to monitors. It looked so small and alone. John's heart ached. "It's a boy," the nurse told him. "About 3 months old. He's undernourished but otherwise seems healthy." John stood by the bed, watching the baby's chest rise and fall. He gently touched the tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled around John's finger. As John left the hospital, he felt different. Lighter, like a fog had lifted. For years, He had just been going through the motions at work and at home. But now he had a purpose again. He got back in his patrol car and radioed dispatch. "This is Officer Harris. I'm back on duty." As John drove through the rainy streets, he felt more alert than he had in years. He wasn't just looking for trouble now. He was looking for ways to help, ways to make a difference. The rest of his shift passed quickly. John responded to calls with new energy. He took extra time to talk to people, to really listen to their problems. When his shift ended as dawn broke, John felt tired but satisfied. As John walked into his quiet house, he realized something. For the first time in years, he felt hope. That abandoned baby had saved him as much as he had saved it. John smiled as he got ready for bed. He couldn't wait to see what the new day would bring. John couldn't stop thinking about the baby he had rescued. He called the hospital every day to check on the boy's progress. After a week, the nurse told him some news that hit him hard. "No relatives have come forward to claim him," she said. "He'll be going into foster care soon." John felt a mix of sadness and determination. He made up his mind right then. "I want to foster him," he said. The nurse sounded surprised. "That's wonderful, but it's not a simple process, especially since you're a single white man wanting to foster a black child." John finished. "I know it won't be easy, but I have to try." John dove into the fostering process. He filled out piles of paperwork. He went to classes on foster parenting. He had interviews with social workers. Many of them looked doubtful when they saw him. "Are you sure you're prepared for this?" one social worker asked. "Raising a child of a different race comes with unique challenges." John nodded firmly. "I know I have a lot to learn, but I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to give this boy a good home." After months of effort, John finally got approval. He went to pick up the baby, his heart pounding with excitement and nerves. When the social worker placed the boy in his arms, John felt that same rush of protectiveness he had felt on that rainy night. "Hello, Isaiah," John said softly. He had chosen the name carefully, wanting something with strength and meaning. "I'm going to take care of you." The first few months were hard. John was exhausted from long nights with a crying baby. He worried constantly if he was doing things right. But slowly, he and Isaiah found their rhythm. As Isaiah grew from a baby to a toddler, John realized he had a lot to learn. He read books on Black history and culture. He asked his Black colleagues for advice. He wanted to make sure Isaiah grew up proud of who he was. John enrolled Isaiah in a daycare with a diverse group of kids and teachers. He took him to community events celebrating Black culture. When Isaiah was old enough, John signed him up for African American history classes at the local community center. Sometimes John felt out of place at these events, but he pushed past his discomfort. This wasn't about him. It was about giving Isaiah connections to his heritage. As the years passed, John and Isaiah's bond grew stronger. They had their routines, breakfast together every morning, bedtime stories every night. John loved watching Isaiah's personality develop. The boy was curious, kind, and had a great sense of humor. When Isaiah was 6, John took him on their first fishing trip. They sat in a small boat on a quiet lake. John showed Isaiah how to bait the hook and cast the line. "Like this, Dad?" Isaiah asked, flinging his line into the water. John's heart swelled at the word Dad. Isaiah had started calling him that recently, and it still felt amazing every time. "That's perfect, buddy," John said with a smile. They didn't catch any fish that day, but as they sat together, talking and laughing, John knew this was a moment he would always treasure. The holidays were always special times for John and Isaiah. They had their traditions, picking out a Christmas tree together, making Thanksgiving dinner for John's fellow officers who didn't have family nearby. One Christmas Eve, as they hung ornaments on their tree, Isaiah got quiet. "Dad," he said hesitantly, "do you think my birth parents ever think about me on Christmas?" John's heart ached. He knelt down to look Isaiah in the eye. "I'm sure they do, son, and I want you to know that it's okay to wonder about them. It doesn't change how much I love you." Isaiah hugged John tight. "I love you too, Dad." As Isaiah got older, John had to help him face some hard realities. When Isaiah was 10, he came home from school looking upset. "What's wrong, buddy?" John asked. Isaiah hesitated, then said, "Some kids at school said you can't really be my dad because we don't match." John felt a flash of anger, but he kept his voice calm. Isaiah, family isn't about matching skin. It's about love. And you are my son in every way that matters. They talked for a long time that night. John explained about racism and prejudice. He told Isaiah he might face more of this as he grew up. But he also told him how proud he should be of his heritage. You come from a long line of strong, brave people, John said, and I will always be here to support you. A few years later, John and Isaiah faced another difficult moment. They were shopping at a store when John noticed a security guard following Isaiah closely. John's police instincts kicked in. He knew what was happening. John put his arm around Isaiah's shoulders and stared the guard down until he walked away. Later, in the car, John explained to Isaiah what had happened. Isaiah looked angry and hurt, but I wasn't doing anything wrong. I know, son, John said sadly. Sometimes people make unfair judgments based on skin color. It's not right, and it's not your fault. They had a long talk about how to handle situations like this. John hated that Isaiah had to learn these lessons, but he was determined to prepare his son for the world he would face. It wasn't all serious talks and hard lessons, though. John and Isaiah had plenty of fun together, too. They went to basketball games, cheering on their favorite team. They had movie nights where they quoted their favorite lines to each other. They worked on Isaiah's science fair projects together, making messes and laughing. One summer, when Isaiah was 14, John took him on a camping trip. As they sat by the campfire, roasting marshmallows, Isaiah got a thoughtful look on his face. "Dad," he said, "I've been thinking about maybe becoming a police officer like you when I grow up." John felt a mix of pride and concern. "That's great that you want to help people, Isaiah, but you know it can be a dangerous job, and it might be even harder for you because I'm black?" Isaiah finished. "I know, Dad, but that's why I want to do it, to make a difference." John nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Well, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you all the way." As Isaiah entered his teenage years, their relationship faced new challenges. Isaiah started to push boundaries, testing John's rules. There were arguments about curfews and homework, but even in the tough moments, the love between them was clear. When Isaiah had his heart broken by his first girlfriend, it was John who sat with him, offering comfort and ice cream. When John had a particularly rough day at work, Isaiah could always make him laugh with a silly joke. As John looked at the young man Isaiah had become, he felt overwhelmed with love and pride. That tiny baby he had found on a rainy night had grown into a smart, compassionate person. John knew they would face more challenges in the future, but he also knew that the bond between them was unbreakable. John thought back to that night so many years ago. He had thought he was rescuing Isaiah, but the truth was, Isaiah had rescued him too. This boy had given John's life new purpose and meaning. Whatever the future held, John knew they would face it together. One day, John was walking out of the police station after his shift when a man approached him. The stranger looked nervous, glancing around as if checking for eavesdroppers. "Officer Harris," the man said in a low voice. "I'm Leroy. I need to talk to you about Isaiah." John felt a chill run down his spine. He hadn't told many people about Isaiah's background. "What about Isaiah?" he asked cautiously. Leroy leaned in closer. "That night you found him, it wasn't random. There's more to the story. Dangerous stuff." John's heart raced. "What do you mean? How do you know about this?" But Leroy was already backing away. "I've said too much. Just be careful. The past has a way of catching up." With that, he disappeared into the crowd. John stood there, stunned. The encounter left him shaken and full of questions. He had always wondered about the circumstances of Isaiah's abandonment. Now, it seemed there might be darker secrets lurking in his son's past. That night, John couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Leroy's words. The next day, he went to the station's archives. He dug out old case files from around the time he found Isaiah. John spent hours poring over reports of gang activity, drug busts, and missing persons. Nothing seemed to connect directly to Isaiah, but John couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something. He started reaching out to old contacts from his early days on the force. Many had retired or moved away, but a few were willing to talk. One former colleague, Mike, agreed to meet John for coffee. As they sat in a quiet corner of a diner, John explained the situation. Mike listened carefully, then sighed. I remember that time. There was a lot going on that never made it into official reports. Human trafficking rings, gang wars, it was ugly. John leaned forward. Do you think Isaiah could have been caught up in that somehow? Mike nodded slowly. It's possible. There was one case, a young woman who escaped from a trafficking ring. She was pregnant. We tried to protect her, but she disappeared before the baby was born. John felt his stomach drop. Could that woman have been Isaiah's mother? Over the next few weeks, John dug deeper. He called in favors, followed leads that had gone cold years ago. Slowly, a tragic picture began to emerge. Isaiah's mother had been named Tanya. She had fallen in with a dangerous crowd as a teenager. By the time she realized she was in over her head, it was too late. She was trapped in a world of violence and exploitation. When Tanya discovered she was pregnant, she saw it as a chance for a new life. She managed to escape her captors and went into hiding, but she knew they would never stop looking for her. John finally found someone who had known Tanya in those last months. A kind-hearted woman named Gloria who had given Tanya shelter. She loved that baby so much, Gloria told John, her eyes filling with tears. But she was always looking over her shoulder. She knew they would find her eventually. John's voice was hoarse as he asked, "What happened to her?" Gloria shook her head sadly. She left one night with the baby, said she had a plan to keep him safe. That was the last time I saw her. A few days later, John got the final piece of the puzzle. A police report from a neighboring county. A young woman's body found in an alley. No ID, but the description matched Tanya. The pieces fell into place. Tanya must have realized she couldn't outrun her past. So she made the heartbreaking decision to give her son a chance at life, even if it meant sacrificing her own. John sat in his car, overwhelmed by what he had learned. Isaiah's abandonment hadn't been an act of cruelty. It had been a desperate mother's final act of love. Now John faced an impossible dilemma. Should he tell Isaiah the truth? The boy had always wondered about his origins. But this truth was so painful, so tragic. It could shatter the sense of security John had worked so hard to build. John decided to talk to his partner, Sarah. They met for lunch, and John poured out the whole story. Sarah listened without interrupting. When John finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That's a heavy burden to carry, John," she said finally. "But don't you think Isaiah has a right to know?"
John sighed.
"I don't know. He's still so young. What if this knowledge hurts him more than it helps?" Sarah reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You've raised a strong kid, John. Give him some credit. But maybe talk to a professional before you decide." John took her advice. He made an appointment with a counselor who specialized in adoptive families. Dr. Evans listened carefully as John explained the situation. "There's no easy answer here," Dr. Evans said. "But secrets have a way of coming out eventually. And the longer you wait, the harder it might be for Isaiah to accept." John nodded, his throat tight. "I'm just so scared of hurting him." Dr. Evans smiled kindly. "That fear shows how much you love him. Remember, you'll be there to support Isaiah through this. That makes all the difference." As the weeks passed, John wrestled with his decision. He found himself growing distant, lost in his thoughts. One evening, John was on the phone with Sarah, discussing a case. He thought Isaiah was in his room doing homework. But as John talked, he didn't notice Isaiah coming downstairs for a snack. "I just don't know how to tell him the whole truth, Sarah," John said, his voice low. "How do I explain that his mother died trying to protect him from dangerous people?" There was a crash from the kitchen. John spun around to see Isaiah standing there, a broken glass at his feet, his face pale with shock. "Isaiah," John said, his heart racing. "I can explain, Dash." But Isaiah was already running, slamming the front door behind him. John called after him, but Isaiah didn't stop. For hours, John drove around town, looking for Isaiah. He called Isaiah's friends, checked his favorite spots. Finally, as night fell, he found Isaiah sitting alone in the park where they used to play when he was little. John approached cautiously. "Isaiah? Son, please talk to me." Isaiah looked up, his eyes red from crying. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. "All this time. You knew what happened to my mom, and you kept it from me." John sat down next to Isaiah, careful to give him space. I'm so sorry, Isaiah. I was trying to protect you. I wanted to wait until you were old enough to understand. Understand what? Isaiah shouted. That my mom was mixed up in something dangerous? That she died because of me? No, Isaiah, John said firmly. Your mother died trying to save you. She loved you so much that she gave her life to give you a chance. Isaiah's anger seemed to deflate, replaced by confusion and pain. But why keep it a secret? Don't you trust me? John's heart ached. Of course I trust you. I was scared, Isaiah. Scared of hurting you, of changing the way you saw yourself. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now that I was wrong to keep this from you. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the truth hanging between them. Finally, Isaiah spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. Tell me everything, he said. I need to know. So John did. He told Isaiah about Tanya's difficult life, her bravery in escaping, her love for her unborn child. He explained about the danger she faced and the impossible choice she made to keep Isaiah safe. As John talked, Isaiah's expression changed from anger to sadness to a kind of awe. When John finished, Isaiah was quiet for a long moment. She must have been really brave, he said finally. John nodded. She was. And she loved you more than anything. Isaiah looked at John, his eyes full of conflicting emotions. I need some time to process all this, he said. I'm not sure how I feel right now. John understood. He drove Isaiah home, the car ride silent and tense. At home, Isaiah went straight to his room, closing the door firmly behind him. Over the next few weeks, a distance grew between them. Isaiah spent more time in his room or out with friends. When he did talk to John, his responses were short, almost cold. One day, John overheard Isaiah on the phone with his friend Michael. I just don't know who I am anymore, man, Isaiah was saying. Everything I thought I knew about myself feels like a lie. John's heart broke hearing those words. He wanted so badly to comfort his son, to make things right, but he knew Isaiah needed space to work through his feelings. The tension came to a head one evening at dinner. John had made Isaiah's favorite meal, hoping to bridge the gap between them. But as they ate in awkward silence, Isaiah suddenly put down his fork. How can you understand what I'm going through? He asked, his voice bitter. You have no idea what it's like to be black in this world. And now I find out my own mother was caught up in all this dangerous stuff? How am I supposed to deal with that? John tried to stay calm. You're right, Isaiah. I can't fully understand your experience. But I love you, and I want to support you however I can. Isaiah scoffed. Support me? By lying to me? I never lied to you, John said, his own anger rising. I didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing. Isaiah shouted, standing up so quickly his chair fell over. You don't trust me. You still see me as a little kid who can't handle the truth. That's not true, John protested. I was trying to protect you. I don't need your protection. Isaiah yelled. I need the truth. I need to know who I really am. With that, Isaiah stormed out of the house. John heard his car start up and drive away. He sat at the table, head in his hands, feeling like he had failed as a father. The next day, Isaiah didn't come home after school. John tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. Finally, late that night, he got a text from Isaiah, staying at Michael's for a few days. Need some space? John's heart sank, but he knew he had to respect Isaiah's wishes. He texted back, I understand. I love you. Please be safe. Days turned into weeks. Isaiah would come home occasionally to get clothes or books, but he barely spoke to John. John tried to give him space while also letting him know he was there if needed. But every day, the distance between them felt bigger. One night, unable to sleep, John found himself looking at old photo albums. Pictures of Isaiah growing up, his first steps, first day of school, sports games, and family vacations. John's eyes filled with tears. Had he ruined everything by trying to protect Isaiah from the truth? The next day, John ran into Isaiah's guidance counselor at the grocery store. Mrs. Thompson pulled him aside, concern in her eyes. Isaiah seems very troubled lately, she said. He's withdrawn in class, and his grades are slipping. Is everything okay at home? John sighed, explaining the situation as best he could without revealing too much. Mrs. Thompson listened sympathetically. "It's a difficult situation," she said, "but Isaiah is lucky to have a father who cares so much. Give him time. He'll come around." John hoped she was right, but as more time passed, he began to fear he had lost Isaiah for good. The son he had raised, the bond they had formed over years of love and trust, had it all been destroyed by this revelation? One evening, John came home from work to find Isaiah sitting on the front steps. His heart leapt, but he approached cautiously. "Hey," John said softly. "It's good to see you." Isaiah looked up, his expression a mix of sadness and uncertainty. "Can we talk?" he asked. John nodded, sitting down next to Isaiah but giving him space. "Of course. I'm always here to listen." Isaiah took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said. "About my mom, about you, about who I am." John stayed quiet, letting Isaiah find his words. "I'm still angry that you kept the truth from me for so long," Isaiah continued. "But I think I understand why you did it. You were trying to protect me, in your own way." John felt a glimmer of hope. "I'm so sorry, Isaiah. I should have trusted you with the truth sooner." Isaiah nodded. "Yeah, you should have. But I also know how much you love me, how much you've sacrificed to give me a good life, just like my birth mom did." John's eyes filled with tears. "You and your mother are the bravest people I've ever known," he said. "I'm so proud to be your dad." Isaiah was quiet for a moment. Then, hesitantly, he leaned against John's shoulder. "I'm not okay yet," he said. "I still have a lot to figure out, but I think I'm ready to come home." John put his arm around Isaiah, holding him close. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'll be here, always." As they sat there, watching the sun set, John felt a mix of sadness and hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There was still so much healing to be done, so many conversations to be had. But for the first time in weeks, John felt like they might find their way back to each other. Isaiah was right. He wasn't a little kid anymore. He was a young man grappling with complex truths about his identity and his past. John knew his role now was not to shield Isaiah from these truths, but to support him as he faced them. As they stood up to go inside, Isaiah looked at John. "Dad," he said softly, "thanks for never giving up on me." John hugged his son tight, his heart full of love and gratitude. "I never will," he promised, "no matter what." John pulled Isaiah into a tight hug. They both cried, years of love and pain and fear pouring out. When they finally pulled apart, John felt like a weight had been lifted from his chest. "So where do we go from here?" he asked. Isaiah looked thoughtful. "I've been thinking about that, about my birth mom and her sacrifice. I want to do something to honor her memory." John nodded encouragingly. "That's a wonderful idea. What were you thinking?" "Well," Isaiah said, "you told me she got caught up in some bad stuff as a teenager, right? Maybe we could start a program to help at-risk youth. Give them the support and guidance she didn't have." John felt a surge of pride. "That's an amazing idea, Isaiah. We could work with the community center, maybe set up a mentorship program." Isaiah's eyes lit up. "Yeah, and maybe eventually we could start a scholarship in her name. Help kids go to college who might not otherwise have the chance." They spent the rest of the evening brainstorming ideas. John marveled at Isaiah's compassion and vision. This young man, who had every right to be angry at the world, was instead looking for ways to make it better. Over the next few months, John and Isaiah threw themselves into their project. They met with community leaders, raised funds, and recruited volunteers. It wasn't always easy. There were setbacks and frustrations. But working together toward this goal helped heal the rift between them. One day, as they were leaving a meeting at the community center, Isaiah turned to John with a serious expression. "Dad," he said, "I want you to know something. Learning about my birth mom, about where I came from, it was hard. It still is sometimes. But it's also helped me understand myself better." John nodded, listening intently. "I used to wonder why I felt so driven to help people, to fight injustice," Isaiah continued. "Now I know it's in my blood. My birth mom fought to give me a better life. You became a cop to protect people. And now I'm finding my own way to make a difference." John felt his heart swell with pride and love. "You're an amazing young man, Isaiah. Your mother would be so proud of you." Isaiah smiled, a hint of tears in his eyes. "Thanks, Dad, for everything." As Isaiah's senior year of high school progressed, their relationship grew stronger than ever. They still had disagreements, of course, but now they faced them together with honesty and respect. The youth program they started began to take off. Kids who might have fallen through the cracks were finding support and mentorship. John and Isaiah worked side by side, each bringing their own strengths to the project. Before they knew it, it was time for Isaiah's high school graduation. As John sat in the audience, watching Isaiah walk across the stage to receive his diploma, he felt overwhelmed with emotion. He thought back to that rainy night so many years ago, when he found a tiny baby abandoned behind a dumpster. He remembered the fear and uncertainty he felt becoming a single father, especially to a child of a different race. He thought of all the challenges they had faced together over the years. And now, here was Isaiah, strong, compassionate, and ready to take on the world. John couldn't have been prouder if Isaiah had been his flesh and blood. After the ceremony, John made his way through the crowd to find Isaiah. When he spotted him, surrounded by friends and beaming with pride, John's heart felt like it might burst. Isaiah saw him approaching and broke away from his friends. "Dad," he called out, rushing over to hug John tightly. "Congratulations, son," John said, his voice thick with emotion. "I am so proud of you." Isaiah pulled back, his eyes shining. "I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. You've always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." John smiled, blinking back tears. "That's what fathers do." Isaiah nodded, suddenly looking serious. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about family lately, about what it really means." John listened, curious where this was going. "I used to think family was all about blood," Isaiah continued. "But now I know it's about love, about choice. My birth mom chose to give me a chance at life, even though it cost her everything. And you chose me, Dad. Every single day, you choose to be my father." John felt a lump in his throat. "Isaiah." But Isaiah wasn't finished. "I want you to know, I choose you too. You're my dad, in every way that matters. I love you, and I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me." John pulled Isaiah into another hug, not caring about the tears now flowing freely down his cheeks. "I love you too, son, more than you'll ever know." As they stood there, surrounded by the joy and chaos of the graduation ceremony, John felt a sense of peace settle over him. The road hadn't been easy. There had been pain and misunderstandings, secrets and revelations. But through it all, their love had endured. John thought of Tanya, Isaiah's birth mother. He silently thanked her for her sacrifice, for giving him the greatest gift of his life. He hoped that somehow, somewhere, she could see the amazing young man her son had become. As they walked out of the auditorium together, John's arm around Isaiah's shoulders, he knew that whatever the future held, they would face it as a family. Not a family bound by blood, but one forged through love, choice, and an unbreakable bond. Isaiah looked at John, a mischievous glint in his eye. "So, Dad, about that car you promised me for graduation." John laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. "Nice try, kiddo. How about we start with dinner to celebrate?" Isaiah grinned. "Deal, as long as you're buying." As they walked to the car, joking and planning their celebration, John felt grateful for every moment of their journey together. The hard times had made the good times even sweeter, and he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, father and son, bound by a love stronger than blood.